UVA has had a very successful program over the last 15 years under Tony Bennett. They've won 6 regular season titles, 2 ACC titles, and 1 national title under his tenure. Like with most successful coaches, it's safe to say that most seasons begin with national title expectations. Now, for those who don't know, UVA has been known for playing a slightly different and slower style of basketball. Tony Bennett employs a motion offense designed to create open shots for players by moving the ball around the court and creating confusion for the defense. The offense he employs is called the blocker-mover offense, which was developed by his father, Dick Bennett. Blockers are players who set screens and create space for the movers, and movers are the players who handle the ball and create shots for themselves and their teammates. The blocker-mover offense is a patient offense that emphasizes ball movement and passing. The offense is not designed to create quick shots, but rather create open shots for players who are in good position. The offense is also designed to wear down the defense by forcing them to run and close out on shooters. The blocker-mover offense is a complex offense that requires a lot of discipline and teamwork. However, it can be very effective when executed correctly. On the other end of the court, Bennett employs a pack line defense, which is a variation of man-to-man defense that's designed to deny dribble penetration and force turnovers. The pack line defense is characterized by 4 defenders who sag inside the three-point line, while 1 defender applies pressure to the ball handler. The 4 defenders inside the three-point line are responsible for hedging and recovering on any ball handler who penetrates into the paint. The pack line defense is a very effective defense against any team that relies on dribble penetration. The defense forces the ball handler to make decisions very quickly and often leads to turnovers. The pack line defense is also very good at preventing easy buckets in the paint. Although it's not without its weaknesses, the defense can be susceptible to three-point shooting if the defenders do not close out quickly on shooters, and the defense is also very vulnerable to post-ups if the defender does not box out efficiently. Despite its weaknesses, the pack line defense has been very successful for Tony Bennett at Virginia. The Cavaliers have consistently been one of the best defensive teams in the ACC, and with Bennett still at the reins, after a good season last year that ended in a first-round loss to Furman, what can UVA fans expect to see next season when they take the court? Remember to like and subscribe to the channel.
You see the time. Wittenberg. Oh, it's a long ways.
Draymond Green finds Lucius for the win. He got it.
One timeout. They don't take it. Oh, he got it. Oh, he got it. Butler
Gets it in. Booker gets it off. This one's good if it goes.
As far as coaching, next to Tony Bennett, UVA retains associate head coach Jason Williford, who's been with the program for 15 years, and they bring back Ron Sanchez, who left UVA to be the head coach at UNC Charlotte in 2018, and Orlando Vondros enters his 6th season with the program. Now, UVA loses starters Kihei Clark, Jaden Gardner, Amon Franklin, and Ben Vanderplas, who started 15 games, along with a few other transfers. That's not just a lot of playing time to fill, that's a lot of starting minutes and production to replace. So who does UVA really have and what can they expect? In the backcourt, they do return 6'3" senior guard Reese Beekman, who averaged 9.5 points, 3 rebounds, and 5.3 assists per game last season in 32 starts. Reese Beekman is an agile, skilled playmaker that can shoot and pass the basketball. He is a game-managing point guard that can reliably run the team, but he will need to show that he can adjust to a much faster pace in order to get himself acclimated to NBA game speed. He was projected as a second-round pick this year, but decided to return. He will be a key piece of any success UVA finds this year. 6-foot-tall redshirt junior guard Dante Harris, who transferred in from Georgetown, has 3 years of eligibility left. He averaged 11.9 points, 3.6 rebounds, and 4.1 assists during the 21-22 season at Georgetown. He brought the ball up the floor almost every time he was in the game. That offense at Georgetown was at the very least initiated by him, if not often ran through him. He made the team, which had some good players, better on both ends of the floor. His quick twitch, explosiveness, and handle allowed him to create an advantage off the bounce, and it stands out in games how difficult it is for defenders to stay in front of him. The elephant in the room, though, is Harris's poor shooting from outside. Over his career, he only shoots 26.8%. I'll let that one sit for a second because that's a rough number, especially in this UVA offense. But if any system's going to fix him, it might as well be UVA's. On defense, his quickness and surprising physicality meant that opposition rarely wanted to take him off the bounce and instead would find an easier path to the basket. He will certainly contribute next season and may even find himself as a starter next season. UVA fans just need to hope that he's building on his year 1 highs and not his year 2 slump. 6'6" sophomore guard Andrew Rode transferred in from St. Thomas, where he started all 31 games as a true freshman. Rode averaged 17.1 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 3.7 assists per game. He also added 1.7 steals per game. The question here will be how he adjusts into ACC play. I could see him sliding into a starting role, but if he doesn't acclimate well in the ACC, I could see his minutes diminish as the year goes on. I do hope for his sake, though, that he's able to just continue on, maybe with a slight dip in his shooting percentages or the number that he puts up on offense, but stay as a productive player. 6'5" junior guard Tane Murray from New Zealand played 13 games last season, where he averaged 1.4 points and 0.9 rebounds while shooting 31.6% from the field and only 16.7% from three-point range. I'd expect him to maintain a spot as a limited role player this year. 6'4" sophomore guard Isaac McNeely played 33 games with 1 start, averaging 6.7 points, 2.2 rebounds, and 0.7 assists per game. He also hit 39.2% from three-point range. He is more of a straight-line athlete than a lateral athlete. He gets up on his jumper and jumps well when attacking the basket. He has a quick shooting release as a spot-up and dribble pull-up shooter, specifically when going left. And he is a good all-around shooter. He's not a speedster with the ball, but he is a solid ball handler. Definitely more of a straight-line penetrator than a shifty change-of-direction handler. But he is a willing passer who isn't necessarily a creative passer, but he is a distributor who sees the floor well. I'd expect to see his minutes and production increase this season. 6'4" freshman guard Elijah Gertrude suffered a torn ACL this past November, but was expected to be able to return to the court by the time he arrives at UVA this summer. If he comes back fully healed, UVA could find a guy who can contribute off the bench this year. Gertrude's lockdown defense stood out his last season of high school, and he only cemented that reputation while playing with the City Rocks on the AAU circuit, where his offensive game also flashed. Gertrude is a strong athlete with a lanky wingspan at guard, a combination at Virginia that the coaching staff has historically loved. Part of what makes Gertrude so elusive is that he's not only quick, but he's also adept at changing both speed and direction on a dime, and utilizing different speeds to lull defenders into a false sense of security. He's a good finisher at the rim and has hops and strength to finish through contact. Additionally, Gertrude has the chops to be a pure scorer in college, as his pull-up jumper game is pretty, and his ability to stop quickly and create space for him to get off a smooth jumper is excellent. Overall, I feel like he's going to be a great fit in the UVA system, and while I don't expect him to be a superstar freshman coming off the ACL tear, I do expect him to develop really well over the next few years. 6'4" freshman guard Desmond Roberts also joins as a preferred walk-on this season. Now in the front court, 6'11" freshman forward Blake Buchanan, ultra-reliable big who's productive on both ends of the floor and has a very high floor at the next level. He's going to continue to fill out. He has a good motor, willingness to be physical on both ends of the floor, and inside-out offensive tools. He also runs the floor extremely well for his size and is a solid vertical athlete. While he's not an especially flashy player, his game is about substance over style, and he's a bit of a throwback who probably gets more appreciation from college coaches than from your average fan. Offensively, he has a solid jump hook over his left shoulder, reliable counters, an understanding of when to kick out and repost. He's a good screener, a threat rolling to the rim, and a solid passer. He's especially good offensive rebounder who can also rim run extremely well. He's not a reliable floor spacer yet, and similarly, he needs to become an accurate free throw shooter. But the mechanics are there for the touch to develop. Defensively, he's physical guarding the block, has a very good understanding of how and why to do his work early in the post in order to push opposing bigs off their sweet spots before the catch. I'd expect him to work into the rotation. 6'8" guard/forward sophomore Ryan Dunn, who played 31 games last year, where he averaged 2.6 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 1.1 block per game, while he shot 53.2% from the field and 31.3% from the three-point range. Dunn created all kinds of havoc for Virginia on defense. When Dunn was on the floor this season, he alone blocked nearly 11% of all 2-point attempts. Dunn is one of only 3 high major freshmen 6'8" or shorter since 2007-08 season to post a block rate of at least 10%. Dunn has a high feel for the game as a backline helper. You can see him reading the floor, looking for opportunities to strike without losing touch of his own defensive assignment. Combine that with his motor, which always runs hot, and his length, Dunn is able to cover a lot of ground in a short period of time. He needs to add a perimeter jumper to become a true high-level NBA prospect. In Dunn, Tony Bennett and his staff have a high-floor, high-ceiling player who can impact winning at a high level, with some modest improvements in certain areas. At 6'10", forward/center freshman Anthony Robinson, whose grandfather George Wilson played in the NBA for 7 seasons and took home a gold medal at the 1964 Tokyo Olympics, his dad also played professional football. He has really good size, strength, and physicality. Anthony's a hard worker with a great upside. At 6'10", 235, he provides more reinforcements to UVA's depleted frontcourt, as the Cavaliers lost 5 scholarship frontcourt players from last season. As a prospect, he's definitely raw, but the athleticism he brings to the floor and long-term potential that he brings is what UVA fans should be excited about. Right now, he projects as a solid rebounder, a lob threat in the pick and roll, and a guy who can fit the traditional mold of a Virginia big in the pack line defense. I doubt we see a ton of him this year, but you never know. 6'8" Merrimack College graduate transfer forward Jordan Minor. The 240-pound Minor averaged 17.4 points, 9.4 rebounds, and 2.6 blocks en route to winning Northeast Conference Co-Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and all Northeast Conference first team honors last year. With UVA losing so much backcourt depth this season, this is a good pickup, and I expect to see him on the court early and often this season, if not even in a starting role. 6'9" graduate transfer from Oklahoma forward Jake Groves. Jake is a skilled forward and an excellent three-point shooter. He also brings leadership and experience. Last season, he averaged 6.8 points, 2.5 rebounds in 32 games played, including 22 starts. He shot 38% from three-point range. He began his career at Eastern Washington, where he played 2 seasons before playing the last 2 years at Oklahoma. This will be his first time in college playing without his older brother as his teammate, though. They played together at Eastern Washington and Oklahoma, although his brother's now headed over to Europe to play professionally. Tony Bennett wanted a skilled forward, particularly a shooter, and that's where he fits in. He's a floor stretcher. He shot 38% from 3 this last season. He's a classic stretch floor. He was a guard early on in his career, and he brings that skill set to a 6'9" body. Shooting is his best skill. He'll primarily be used as a power forward, perhaps occasionally a small ball center, and UVA has a younger team now. He brings in experience, having started 34 games for Oklahoma, and I expect him to have a pretty significant role this season. 6'5" redshirt freshman Leon Bond III comes in slotted as a good athlete that can both ignite the fast break and finish the break. He's not known for his shooting range, although he is known for being dangerous in the mid-range and at the basket. He is a powerful straight-line driver while also having an effective post-up game. He is a solid wing ball handler who's a willing passer, a dangerous offensive rebounder, and has defensive versatility. I'd expect limited minutes for him this season. And finally, they're joined by 6'7" senior walk-on forward Tristan Howe. Now, as far as next season, I'd venture to say the starting 5 might look something like Reese Beekman at the 1, Isaac McNeely at the 2, Andrew Rode at the 3, Ryan Dunn at the 4, and maybe Jordan Minor at the 5. Although that's just my guess based on last season and counting that the transfers are fitting into UVA's offense at the start and really acclimating to what's expected in ACC play. Virginia appears to have a blossoming big 3 for the 23-24 season. Beekman's return means that he'll undoubtedly be the head of the snake at either end of the floor. But second-year players Ryan Dunn and Isaac McNeely are similarly positioned to break out with sophomore campaigns. Both of them thrived off their elite traits as a freshman. If they both achieve at least baseline improvement in a few areas in the game that were less prominent last year, this team really could be set up for success. Both Beekman and Dunn have already been projected as first-round picks next year because of how elite they are defensively, but they both leave room for improvement on their offensive game. The NBA hype for Dunn is real. Frankly, the projections have him going near to the middle end first round, might be exaggerating how much he can reasonably be expected to improve on offense. Meanwhile, McNeely might not be as ready for the NBA as the other two, but he should show growth, especially with a significant role as a sharpshooter this season, and he has the skills and size to expand his arsenal, being a catch and shoot guy. Now, relying on transfers who need to adapt to a new program and a new system is a dangerous play, but Virginia is pretty uniquely suited for that with the players they brought in. How Harris develops this season after he was a high-volume, low-efficiency scorer at Georgetown in his first 2 years will be fascinating to watch. The coaching staff have put the program in a really nice spot with Harris and Rode. Neither will be asked to be the guy this season, but they both have an opportunity to step into a bigger role with their eyes set on the future. And then there's Minor and Groves. The Hoos seem to have struck an effective balance. Both are in their final year of eligibility, and neither will play a critical role that will prevent the guys who are younger from getting minutes behind them. Minor will most likely start at the 5, and depending on how he transitions to the ACC after 4 years at Merrimack is unknown, but his physicality and athleticism mean that his floor isn't that low. And in Tony Bennett's system, he could be a solid piece for this season, while UVA's younger frontcourt pieces start to develop. This team is probably starting the year projecting top 7, 8 in the ACC. The way I see it, Duke, Miami, and UNC are probably at the top, with that next group pretty interchangeable, and I see that next group being UVA, Clemson, NC State, Wake, and Pitt. And I could really see any of them finishing anywhere from 3rd to 8th among that group. We really won't know until ACC play kicks off, though, since everyone's roster just has so much turnover every year now. And now last year was a down year in the ACC. I see this one as an upswing, and more teams could make it to the big dance from the ACC. And so if UVA really gels, I could certainly see them getting to the big dance and seeing the second round as their floor this year. I did not see them as a first round exit team last year, and I think this team, although they lost a lot, has certainly done enough in the offseason to, at a minimum, be in there in the first round and hopefully a shot at the second.